Good morning, everyone. My name is Brett Mitchell, the chairperson of the Elephant Reintegration Trust, which is based in South Africa. Unfortunately, I cannot be here to present in person. Today, I'll be talking about rewilding captive elephants, what it means to restore their autonomy and reintegrate them into wild ecosystems. My involvement with captive elephants began in 1996. For the first 18 years, I worked within the tourism industry, and over the past 11 years, my focus has shifted to rewilding elephants, conducting research, and advocating for an end to elephant captivity. I've always believed that elephants belong in the wild. That belief led me to make a life-changing decision to ensure that the elephants I had the privilege of working with would live as they should, wild. This took several years to happen. The successful rewilding of these elephants became the catalyst for founding the Elephant Reintegration Trust, marking the beginning of a journey that continues to this day. So what do we actually mean when we talk about rewilding? It can be broken down into three key stages, or referred to as the 3 R's: rehabilitation, reintegration, and rewilding. Rehabilitation is the treatment and care of an injured, orphaned, or sick elephant who requires veterinary care to be physically fit for the reintegration process and eventual rewilding. Reintegration is the process of humans disengaging intensive management of previously captive elephants, reinstating autonomy with full freedom of choice, whilst correcting unwanted behaviors to allow for transitioning back into a completely wild system. Rewilding is the release of reintegrated elephants into a wild system without any interference by humans, in which the elephant has full autonomy. The time frame for any of these stages is guided by the elephant's own readiness and progression. Why should we rewild? On a holistic level, elephants do not thrive in captivity. They simply are not suited to a captive lifestyle. By rewilding elephants and affording them the freedom to live autonomously, we not only improve their individual well-being, but also make a meaningful contribution to the conservation of the species, something which captive elephants do not. My decision to drive the rewilding of this first group of elephants was due to how the captive industry was developing in southern Africa. Whilst it was never good, however, it was getting worse with each year. Numerous accidents were occurring, with elephant handlers losing their lives and tourists getting injured. In South Africa, between 2002 and 2013, wild elephants were being captured purely for commercial gain under the false pretense of saving them. This is a far cry from the truth. Family groups were being torn apart, in some cases adults shot to create supposed orphans. Importantly, I did not want anyone under my watch to become a statistic, and elephants deserve to live wild. In South Africa, the practice of rewilding has seen more than 20 elephants successfully reintegrated onto various reserves over the years. Despite this progress, 90 elephants are still held in captivity. There are 2 rewildings that I'll be sharing today. The first rewilding was very personal, as I've been with these elephants since 1996, and I've always felt personally responsible for their future. To touch briefly on their history, the adults were captured as 2 to 4-year-olds back in 1988 during one of the numerous culling operations that took place in Zimbabwe. In 1996, they entered the tourism industry, being utilized for elephant-back safaris near Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe. In 2002, they moved to the 500-hectare Letsat Game Park in South Africa, bordering the Pilanesberg National Park, to establish elephant-back safaris in South Africa. These adult elephants had spent over 25 years in captivity prior to their rewilding. In June 2014, the commercial operation known as Pilanesberg Elephant-back Safaris was closed. The first step was to find a reserve to rewild the elephants. I had been investigating various options, but I knew where they needed to be rewilded, and that was on Kamup Kalahari Reserve. This, however, took numerous months of discussion to achieve the desired outcome, as these elephants would also be the founding population. Kamup is the second largest private reserve in South Africa, spanning over 90,000 hectares. With virtually no tourism and conservation its priority, it made the perfect location. When I reflect back, only now do I realize how high I had set the bar for this first rewilding, considering the reserve's remoteness and its size. It was challenging, however, the best place for the elephants. The permitting process was painstakingly slow, with typical government bureaucracy taking over a year to finalize. With this delay, it allowed us to start working through various processes for the reintegration prior to the translocation. The daily routine changed after the commercial closure, along with certain management aspects. As the elephants would feed on the park during the day, we created scenarios likely to occur with the elephants once rewilded, such as encounters with vehicles. In July 2015, I decided to start leaving them out at night in the park to see how they would behave. Food was available in their night enclosures and left open if they chose to come back during the night. We fitted GPS collars to the elephants, allowing us to monitor them via a laptop throughout the night for safety and security reasons. Due to the size of the park, the elephants were only a 10-minute walk from their stables. They did not return to the stables during this period. Each morning we would join them for the day. With all the necessary permits issued in August and the logistics finalized, we departed for Kabak Kalahari Reserve on the 9th of September. We had built a 2-hectare holding boma as their night enclosure for the duration of the reintegration stage. This was strategically placed to allow walk-in access to 4 waterholes, all within 7 to 12 kilometers from the boma. We would walk to one of the 4 waterholes each day, either walking straight there for the elephants to drink before feeding in the vicinity and returning to the boma for the night. Other days, we would feed in the direction of the waterhole for the day, and the elephants would drink late afternoon before returning to the boma. The elephants showed preference for only 2 of the waterholes to drink from, so we adapted accordingly. After a month, the elephants looked settled, so we decided to see what they would do if we left them out at night. Due to a complication with a collar that had caused the wound, we returned to the boma routine within a few days, as the collar was removed to allow the wound to heal. In hindsight, the collar issue turned into a positive. It allowed us to disengage even further from the elephants over the next few months. At this point, we were letting the elephants out every morning from the boma, allowing them to make the decision as to where to feed and drink. We monitored them by vehicle during the day and would return them to the boma in the evening on foot. The elephants were now ready for the rewilding stage. The 11th of December was set to start this. At sunrise on the day in question, the boma gate was simply opened, allowing all further decisions to be made by the elephants. They would be treated as wild elephants, which meant being completely hands-off. We would only intervene should it be absolutely necessary. Watching the adult elephants regain their autonomy after nearly 30 years of captivity was a privilege to witness. Watching them walk out of the boma for what was to be the last time as captive elephants, starting their journey as wild elephants, was an awesome feeling. The next time we saw them that day was when the elephants came to water at last light for a drink. After their first drink as wild elephants, the elephants covered about 40 kilometers over the next 48 hours, feeding and exploring before drinking again. From this point on, it was about monitoring the elephants and redirecting any unwanted behaviors if they occurred, such as engaging with vehicles, people, or buildings. These behaviors were virtually non-existent. This highlights the need to disengage from the elephants slowly through the reintegration process. Even though it was what I had expected, they took to the living as wild elephants with ease. It was a privilege to witness. 10 years on, Chiquenya, the adult cow, has become an exceptional matriarch and also a grandmother. Chiquenya and her eldest daughter Tidimala both calved in February 2019, amazingly only a week apart. Wedi, her second daughter, followed suit with her first calf in 2021. Each calf was wild conceived and wild born, showing how rewilded elephants contribute to the conservation of their species. From the onset, we knew introducing additional elephants would be necessary to correctly balance the social structure on the reserve. In September 2020, we achieved the first introduction with a wild family unit of 6 elephants. When the new herd disembarked from the translocation truck, they only moved a few hundred meters away. Normally, wild elephant will move completely out of the area. There had been continuous rumbling for about 30 minutes prior to opening the trailer doors. As soon as we had access to the collar positions, we understood why they had not moved away. The rewilded matriarch was approximately 5 to 6 kilometers away when the truck arrived and had already started moving in the direction of the truck, presumably due to all of the rumbling. She met the new herd about an hour later after they had left the trailer, a mere kilometer or so from the offloading ramp. She moved directly towards a waterhole, escorting the new herd to water. It is known that orphaned elephants and elephants from disrupted systems readily allow new elephants into their fold. Whilst they are still two herds, they do move mostly together with the rewilded herd. In 2022, 3 additional bulls were introduced to improve and balance the existing bull structure. This was crucial for the reintegrated bulls to form a fission-fusion system with the breeding herds, as well as normalizing their must cycles. The second reintegration I did was rewilding 10 elephants on Shambhala Game Reserve. This group comprised of 2 family units and an adult bull. These adults were captured as youngsters during the Zimbabwe culling operations in the 1980s. The adult elephants had spent over 20 years in captivity being used commercially in the elephant back safari industry. This rewilding was simpler as there was no translocation to a new reserve, which would require a settling period at the new reserve. The reintegration followed a similar process as the first. However, it only consisted of 3 stages, the stables, boma, and release stages, and spanned over a 3-month period. What is significant with both rewildings is that when the boma gates were left open and the elephants had full freedom of choice, neither group of elephants ever returned to the boma. So what is the take-home message from rewilding these elephants? In June this year, we removed the GPS collars from both the rewilded and wild elephants after years of monitoring at Kamap Kalahari Reserve. These 2 rewildings show that elephants will choose autonomy over captivity and human control. This outcome simply confirms my belief that elephants will always choose freedom of choice when given the opportunity. What stood out during the last data collection on the Kamap elephants is that unless you knew their history, one would not say that they were ever in captivity. Sadly, remaining in captivity is the perceived safe option for these animals, which assumes that they prefer anthropogenic relationships or cannot be rewilded. This is a flawed assumption. Given time, I am confident captive elephants from any background have the ability to be rewilded. Of course, possibly excluding individuals with physical injuries that could hamper them negatively living wild. Saying this, however, we should give them the opportunity to make that choice. We severely underestimate, when given time, how an animal recovers when living in their natural habitat, having access to their correct diet, and how this combination promotes recovery. EOT has been researching and monitoring various previously captive elephants who have been rewilded on different reserves across South Africa. All these elephants have reproduced and have formed social bonds with other wild elephants, proving that elephants can be rewilded. This has taught us that elephants are extremely flexible and indeed adapt to wild environments. In ending, rewilding these elephants would not have been possible without the dedicated handlers who trusted in me that this was the best decision for the elephants. Tanisha, who is integral to our research at EOT, will be elaborating on our research conducted on the rewilded elephants, sharing some of the key results we've obtained. Lastly, a huge thank you to all our sponsors enabling me to present here today. Thank you to everyone for listening.